So shifters, I just want to share shifter stencils because they're neat. And sometimes you need to really see it to get it, because it's very hard to describe, isn't it? When you're trying to like explain it, you're like, it's a stencil that has a line, but then you move it, and then you create another thing. Like, okay, that makes perfect sense. Not really. So I have several different types of stencils. So when it comes to the world of layering stencils, there's sizes. There's a regular size layering stencil, and there's what I refer to as the mini stencil. These aren't the same pattern, but you get the idea as far as scale goes. Shifters are a pattern stencil that has an opening and a repeat pattern lasered in, okay? When you laser that in, it's completely translucent. You can't see anything other than that little lasered line. And the idea with shifters, and you'll see when I demo it, is to ink and then match up a shape. And my eyes are not what they used to be. So what I do is when I get a shifter, I'll just go over it with some black distress paint and wipe it off so that black paint falls into that etched line and stays there permanently. So once you do it, you only ever have to do it once. And during Facebook Live, they're like, why don't they come pre-lined, pre-printed? I'm like, if you wanted a $10 stencil, he could pay someone to stamp that. You can do it, you're a crafter. Just put some paint on once, and it's, so if you don't want your lines to be black because you like red, who cares? Just do something with paint so you can see those lines a lot easier when we shift. But once you do it with paint, paint is permanent on here, you never have to do it again. And here's how a shifter works. It's quite cool, actually. So I'm gonna go in and stencil, and I'm going to stencil just on a tag. And we can work with blending tools if we want. I'm going to work with a blending brush. Now, my blending brushes, sadly, are not marked because these are Rangers. Ted just should have brought them from home. So I just sow caution to the wind, and I open it, and whatever I open, that's the color it is right then. Okay. When I stencil, what I like to use is a product that I did with Sizzix called Sticky Grid. Okay? And Sticky Grid's pretty crazy stuff. It's really just a double-sided sticky thing, and you use it again and again and again and again. You just use it till you can't use it anymore, which is, I don't know, I've not thrown a piece away yet. So you start out by peeling off both sides. One end is just paper, and its purpose really is to put onto your cutting pads, and you can stick your dies on, and you can die cut, especially your alphabet dies, so you can get the word exactly how you want it. You can cut it out. For me, as a maker, because I'm not always die cutting, I just stick it down onto my media mat. I can take my piece of paper or whatever it is I want to stencil, and now this is not moving anywhere. So not only do I stencil with it, but let's say I had a big background stamp, and I wanted to stamp a background stamp on a whole piece of cardstock without using washi tape to hold it down. I can do this, and I can get that stamp and stamp it edge to edge without having anything to hold on to it. So that's what I use. No, it's just this is gonna lift right off. So normally I'll take another piece of card because I always say I have pork chop fingers. These little fat things can't go under anything. And I'll just go underneath, and you just pick it off. And then when you're done with your sticky grid, it has that paper tab, and then you just stick it somewhere until you got to use it again. I don't like put the paper back on or anything, but I would imagine if you had pets, you want to put it somewhere, like in a drawer or something, but no, it doesn't leave any residue or anything. Now I will say that when you use sticky grid, I don't like to emboss on it, right? So if I'm going to stamp, I would stamp it, peel it off, put the embossing powder on, because if you heat it, you will get some of that goo to stick to the paper. Other than that, honestly, I've used mine at least 20, 25 times, and I'm still using the same piece. Even in Facebook Live, I had one from like the holiday hacks that I use. It's got paint and ink on it, absolutely. So to do a shifter, I'm gonna place down my stencil. Now, I like to stencil with tape only because I like a little hinge to see what I'm doing. That's just a preference, so whatever works for you. But I'm just gonna take a bit of tape. It could be masking tape or washi tape. I like that because after I ink, I can peel one up and I just use it like a hinge. I can see what I'm doing, and if I want more ink, I can just quickly put it back down. So I'll go in, and I've used brushes. It was just luck of the draw. I thought maybe I'd get an inky one from this morning. Not so fast. Okay, let's do some oxide. Let's ink with those. Okay, let's see what colors we have here. I'll do a little blue. Blue and green. Blue and green with a little orange. Because one brush does all. Here we go. So what we're going to do is just start by inking. Okay? And again, you don't have to use a blending brush. You can use a blending tool. You can use whatever it is you want. I just like a blending brush because it's really easy to control. I have the ability just to go right through that stencil. I can soften out my pattern. I'm gonna even pick up just a little bit of rusty hinge. Okay. Funny thing about just any kind of ink blending really is I think back in the day when we first started coming out with Distress, the whole idea behind a blending tool was to double dip, was to blend colors. We didn't have 60 colors of Distress. We didn't. We had just a very small palette, started with 6, ended up with 12, and you wanted to expand it. So it's like, well, let's create this tool. It was that rectangular block that you could dip into 2 colors and kind of work those colors. You don't contaminate your ink pads by double dipping. You may make them look dirty, and in that case, you can just wipe it off with a baby wipe, but you won't contaminate it unless you re-ink it the wrong color. All right? Then it's on you. I can't help you on that. All right. So here's our first layer. I'm just gonna pick that off. I like that, okay? I like the way that looks. Right now, I've got a cool pattern. Looks like dots, okay? I'm gonna take this off, just move it off to the side, take a little bit of water, clean off my stencil to my liking, which would just be with water. Perfect. Pick this up, dry off the back. Another reason I've been kind of using masking tape a lot, because it stays on my stencil. So here's where the shift comes in, okay? This is what I inked, right? A shifter, what you're going to do is you're going to take that pattern that you inked and you're going to shift your stencil and put that inked area in the outline. I could shift it this way, I could shift it this way, I could shift it this way. It doesn't really matter how you shift. The idea is go from an open area that you've inked and you outline what you've inked with your stencil. You guys get that? You getting that on your camera? Because it's kind of weird to describe, but when you're like, okay, I see that, and now I'm just gonna move that, and I've outlined it. That's why, to me, those black lines help me see what I'm lining up. It frames it a lot better than trying to catch the light on that little etch thing. So 5 minutes of putting paint on your stencil is so worth it. Then we're just gonna go in and add a second color. So on this one, I'll go in with some Twisted Citron. We could change our mediums. If you wanted to go in with Distress ink at this point, you totally could. Remember, on a blending brush, if we want a concentration of color, we can add some ink and simply slide this up to make those bristles more compact, and that's gonna make that color way more intense in that area. And these brushes are a natural bristle, so they clean off easy on a baby wipe that we can't seem to find. But we saw them earlier. I had them. I know. I brought a pack. They were here. Where they are now, no idea.
At the end of cleanup, we'll find them.
At the end, I will find them. Yep. So same thing. I'm just going to kind of soften that blend. But now when I lift this off, I have shifted my color, right? I've created that multicolor. Now I could shift like orange to black, red to gray, and if you go to Stampers Anonymous, you'll see that pattern, but it gives me the ability to shift in multiple colors. Okay, that's what's cool about these stencils. And not all stencils are shifters, though. You'll just see that it's got that little laser line on there, but super, super easy to do because you can pick up a color and then shift over and do another one. So, for example, if I was going to do this pattern for Christmas, I can do red and then green. Halloween, orange, black. So it really changes a regular pattern into something a little more colorful. If you're doing Valentine's Day, right, you can take, we have a new shifter that are the plus signs. I thought I had them over here, but it seems to be somewhere else now. Oh, that's our honeycomb. That's a good one too. Let's see. Here it is. Here's a small one, right? This is pretty cool because even for Valentine's, instead of doing pluses, just turn on the diagonal and do X's, right? So that'd be really cute to put that on there. But you get the idea of a shifter, right? Very, very cool design, very, very cool pattern. And then when we're done with this, again, Pork Chop just takes that. I always lift from the bottom because the bottom has that paper tab. I'll pass around the sticky grid so you can feel it, right? But there's nothing on the back of that paper. Yeah. No, I know, sorry to disappoint, but it's not there. But I know, dang it, I thought you were lying to me. But I picked from here because that's the paper tab. So it's gonna give you the easiest lift. If I do it this way, it's probably gonna peel the grid onto your tag. So it just depends on where you want to do this. But like it's still sticky. It's cool. It's awesome. Sticky grid and stencils. And I do this now with any of my stencils, not just shifters. If I'm stenciling or if I want to do even collage stamping, you know, where I've got my paper and I'm just taking different stamps. How many times have you gotten to like maybe your 4th layer and you go to stamp and it moves, right? And even if you're not going to use a stamping tool because you're going to layer, that's another nice thing about having that sticky grid.
Does that size work for?
I prefer it. They make it in a 6x6, but it's like too much stick.
So that's perfect for it.
Yeah, I use it for a regular card. I do it for just 4 1/4, 5 1/2. I'll even do it up to 6x6. I prefer that because that big piece, that's a lot of stuff to get off. And if you don't cover it all, if you have sticky grid exposed and you ink it, you've now removed the stick. So I would much rather just use that small little piece. That's why I was completely happy with that sidekick size for any of my inking. It's pretty great stuff. I mean, and a package goes a long, long way. It really does. Yeah, go here. I can give you, let me see, where's the package? So you can take a look at the...
Right here.
Oh, there you go. But that's what it looks like. Yep, 5 sheets, that's all you need. It's a great product. To me, it's like, I don't know, it's every crafter's dream for stuff. I think even if you're coloring, like sticky grid, if you're doing coloring and you don't want to move it around, stick it down and do all your blending. I don't know, how can something so simple be so dang, you know what I mean?